As we saw before, the statue of the Immaculate Conception was entrusted to Don Rosendo. He then entrusted the statue to his slave Manuel, an African man who was enslaved but known for his deep faith. Though he lived in bondage, he took care of the Virgin Mary not as a work, but with full of love which he had for the Blessed Mother. Dear Manuel, with his own hands and heart, built a simple, modest chapel made of mud and straw. This humble structure became the very first shrine to Our Lady of Lújan. Day after day, Manuel cleaned the chapel, lit candles, prayed, and welcomed visitors, becoming the Virgin's caretaker and her own guardian. Soon, the statue of Our Lady became a dear treasure for the local faithful. The little sanctuary became a place of devotion for travelers, local farmers, and families. People would come to pray, light candles, and seek comfort. The statue remained there in the small chapel for nearly 40 years. "40 years later, in 1671, a wealthy and religious woman named Doña Ana de Matos heard about the miraculous statue and its growing devotion. Wanting to help, she generously offered to move the statue of Our Lady to her own estate, which is located closer to the main road along the Lújan River. She thought that it would be a more accessible place for more travelers and pilgrims to visit the Blessed Mother. Don Rosendo's family and the community agreed, and with great respect, the statue of Our Lady was transferred to Doña Ana's new chapel, a big one and made of stone. They took the Virgin Mary to the new chapel and left Manuel, her beloved caretaker, behind. That evening, prayers were offered in thanksgiving and welcome in the new chapel. Later, the chapel doors was closed and locked for the night, and something astonishing happened. The next morning, when they opened the chapel, they saw that the statue was not there. After looking for the statue everywhere, the people finally found the statue right back in the humble chapel that was built by Manuel. People were surprised, and they again took the statue to the new chapel, but just like before, the statue of Our Lady returned to the first little chapel. At first, people became suspicious that Manuel might have secretly taken her back to the small chapel because he loved his mother so much. But the people then came to understand that this is something supernatural. So Doña Ana, the wealthy woman, met with the local archbishop to ask for advice. Finally, a decision was made, and this time, the statue of Our Lady was moved to the new chapel, not quietly, but with a solemn procession. All the faithful, together with the archbishop and the governor, carried the statue of Our Lady from Don Rosendo's place to the new chapel, accompanied by a grand procession. Also Manuel, Our Lady's dear caretaker, walked alongside Our Lady as her devoted sacristan. This time, Our Lady said yes, and she chose to stay in the new chapel. From that day onward, the statue remained in Doña Ana's chapel, and Manuel also stayed with Our Lady as her sacristan in the new chapel for the rest of his life. It is also said that Our Lady told Manuel when he will die, and also told him that he will be buried at the foot of her altar. And on that date, as indicated by the Virgin Mary, in the year 1686, at around 82 years old, Manuel died a holy death. And yes, he was buried directly beneath the main altar at the foot of Our Lady's statue. In the year 1710, a priest who was responsible for taking care of the shrine of Our Lady of Lújan was suffering from a tumor in his throat. In deep faith, he took some oil from one of the lamps that was burning in front of the Virgin statue, and he gently rubbed the oil on his throat while praying. Miraculously, the tumor completely disappeared. In 1780, a terrifying news reached the town of Lújan. A large group of native warriors were coming toward the town, destroying villages and killing people along the way. The people of Lújan were filled with fear, and in panic, they turned to Our Lady. With trust and protection in her, they gathered and prayed with all their hearts. And while they were praying, a thick, heavy fog suddenly covered the whole town. The fog was so dense that it completely hid Lújan from the view. The enemies could no longer see where the town was and ended up going away. That day, Lújan was saved without any bloodshed. Our Lady of Lújan also protected her people during times of sickness. When a deadly cholera epidemic was spreading through the country, the Archbishop of Buenos Aires turned to the Virgin of Lújan in prayer. He asked her to protect the people and promised that if she helped them, he would travel to Lújan to thank her personally. And miraculously, both the city of Buenos Aires and the surrounding province were not affected by the disease. And the Archbishop kept his promise by making a pilgrimage to the shrine of Our Lady of Lújan. Later in 1887, plans were made to build a grand new sanctuary for the veneration of Our Lady of Lújan, because the previous chapels that had housed the statue were no longer large enough to accommodate the countless pilgrims who came from all over Argentina and beyond. So the foundation stone for the present-day basilica was laid in 1887, and full-scale construction began around 1889 to 1890 under the direction of a French architect who designed the basilica in the French Neo-Gothic style. The basilica was officially declared as a minor basilica in the year 1930 by Pope Pius XII, and the construction was completed by 1935, and some finishing touches continued until 1937. This grand basilica rose on the same holy ground where the original small chapel built by Manuel once stood. And this was the beautiful history of Our Lady of Lújan. Thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe to our channel.